The National League is one of haves and have-nots. The riches at the top are some of the most glorious sights to behold. What's on the bottom? A complete embarrassment and testament to the need for a relegation system. Regardless, there is a story for every situation, and these 15 teams are merely proof of it. Which kind of story they'll be? I'll leave that for you to decide. The World Series hangover is very real, and I don't want you to forget it. How the Atlanta Braves started their season was a testament to it. It was a struggle, and that's putting it lightly. At the end of May, there were 23-27 coming off a tough loss against the Diamondbacks. Everything was out of sorts, players struggling left and right, and they lacked the cohesion that took them to a title last October. Sensing a time to motivate the men, Brian Snitker read them the riot act in private. He brought a prisoner into the locker room and slit his throat. If they keep fucking up, he says, they'll be next. The motivation got them back on their feet. It worked too well, if you could be honest. The private meeting in Arizona will be seen as the turning point in their season. Storming back with a fury to meet the Mets head-on for the right to hold the division. Michael Harris is the new blood. And he is the truth. Ronald Acuna's back to hitting with authority. Dansby Swanson is having a career season. And best of all, the pitching staff has been outstanding. How they performed for the past 6 weeks tells us one thing. They're back. Be ready, baseball. The Braves are coming for you. The Marlins are an interesting team, if only for what they showcase on the mound most days. I don't want to live in a world where Sandy Alcantara isn't well known. Have you seen that man pitch? He's the ace they've needed since, that guy. Pablo Lopez isn't too far behind him and solid in his own right. The best way to describe Miami is that they have pieces but still lack a complete puzzle, if you get my drift. For every Jazz Chisholm and Garrett Cooper in the lineup, they have at least 4 or 5 guys that are struggling to adapt to the current situation. It's pretty much the same issue they had last season, but it's gotten a bit better. They're hovering around 500 in striking distance for a playoff spot, in best case scenario. Let's be blunt, they aren't going to be chasing the Braves or Mets anytime soon with their lack of depth. However, I'd say it's still a positive season for them, I guess. Just like their hated brother in the Bronx, the New York Mets have found a way to finally live up to their potential. It's honestly about damn time. The Bats have retained the life they've shown in flashes. This offseason's free agent signings have been great reinforcement, and the core is keeping pace with them. Their starting rotation? It's worthy of a deep playoff run when fully healthy. Rolling out Scherzer, DeGrom, Walker, Bassett, and more in a 7-game series? Who overcomes that? When you get past them, bad news. Edwin Diaz has reclaimed the win portion of his name. He has returned to the dominance he showed in Seattle. They haven't been as torrid as they were early in the year, but they're still a true threat to the NL hierarchy. A dangerous foe. However, an old phobia lingers. Even with all of this good fortune, the fear of the inevitable creeps in the distance. DeGrom and Scherzer have both had significant injuries taking them out for a bit. Scherzer is at least back, but then you get to Francisco Lindor and a hotel door. And despite how well they played, despite their hope and optimism, Atlanta is quickly breathing down their neck. They've been on even more of a tear than the Mets. And the last thing Queens needs is another year where they come up short. Feels like everything conspires against them. That's it, we need to sacrifice the Wilpons to appease the gods. I don't know what the hell to think anymore. You could see the issues the Phillies were going to have from a mile away. The fielding was going to be outright atrocious and their bullpen was somehow going to be worse than that. By the end of May, it was horrifying. The team became Bryce Harper and a bunch of overpaid refuse around him. Blown leads aplenty. Alec Boehm suddenly forgetting how to field. It was a predictable disaster. Joe Girardi suffered the wrath of a Dombrowski desperate to get back to the playoffs. I used to think Girardi was the least of their concerns. The Phillies' issues are structural in nature. But then the Phillies went on a massive tear to get back to some form of relevance, so all logic gets thrown into a paper shredder. Kyle Schwarber is hitting dongs into a different stratosphere. Rhys Hoskins has revived himself as Nick Castellanos is only tragic. As the starting pitching carries them to relevance, we even get a Mark Appel returning from his own temptation of Jesus to make his major league debut. Bryce Harper was doing damn well, but then a pitch went inside and he's out long term with a broken thumb. So I'd say this is the moment they're fucked, but they're still winning. Once again, I'm at a loss for words. Maybe I am losing my touch. The only thing I can say is that you can't take away World Series titles. Because if they could, the Nats would trade it for a few prospects in A-ball. It's been a nightmare season. Patrick Corbin can't find his old form, Steven Strasburg can't find any semblance of health, and the team can't seem to find a way to pay Juan Soto what he wants. I wouldn't get optimistic about any of that stuff happening soon. Word down the rumor mill is that the Lerner family is thinking about selling the team, which means that Dan Snyder outlives another owner. Notice I haven't said much about the team itself. Would you want to talk about them? Because I wouldn't. This meat is rotten. Throw it out. Cubs fans, welcome back to the tank. It had been a while, I know. Seiya Suzuki was supposed to be a nice respite from this hell, but he got injured for a bit. Ian Happ will just settle for being one of the most underrated players in the game. The strange thing is that the hitting hasn't really been the problem. It's dealing with the Russian roulette of whatever's on the mound on a given night. 2015 Jake Arrieta, they are not. Unfortunately, they cannot clone David Robertson 5 more times. In this cookie-serving abyss, all you have are memories of a long-lost era and prospect watching in the minors. When the only joy is laughing at those fuckers in Southside, things are dire. Didn't your owner say you were going to compete this year? All I need to say is one thing. 3-23. Complete fucking train wreck of a season that was done the moment it started. Everyone's underperforming. The only time they're not is when they're being injured left and right. Fan base is pissed and anyone left that's good is probably gonna be gone at the deadline. Nothing has gone right. Even the dude who wanted to shit on the outfield truck from the balcony couldn't do it due to a rainout. I'd say it's deserved though. If only for that fucking blowhard Phil Castellini making bullshit statements before the year. Well, where you gotta go? Well, certainly not to Great American Ballpark to watch this dreck. You fucking moron, Phil. Even John Fisher wouldn't utter that ignorant tripe. There's the potential they flashed on occasion. Everyone knows their pitching core is lights out, but it had always been the hitting that would decide if they would succeed or fail. This season, it's been better. Not anything you consider excellent, but passable. It had to result in the end of Locaden's tenure here, but otherwise, it's league average. An OPS above 700 and a team batting average around 240 is pretty much average in modern baseball. But we all know their bread and butter is in pitching. Corbin Burns, Josh Hader, and Devin Williams are doing their usual thing. And it's good enough to have a stable lead in the NL Central. To be fair, the division is complete dog shit this year, so it isn't gonna take much to claim it. With St. Louis being their only competitor and them going through a rough stretch, they'll just have to maintain pace for a shot at the playoffs. And hopefully not get smacked around in the NLDS again. Pirates baseball is quite the mood. You'll have moments where they show competence, yet more often than not forget how to play the damn game. They'll get crushed 21-0 by the Cubs and become property of the Milwaukee Brewers in no time flat, yet sweep the Dodgers. I don't get it either. Just like how O'Neal Cruz hits rockets and throws fastballs to first base, yet apparently can't track a pop fly in the infield. All for the pleasure to hope prospects pan out and see the return Jose Quintana fetches. Welcome to Pittsburgh, everyone. Come and feel the goddamn magic. What the fuck is this team in third place in the NL Central? I tend not to celebrate the short-term struggles of the Cardinals since they usually find a way to overcome them. When you witness Paul Goldschmidt go from a star to a season worthy of Cooperstown, you tend to be more reserved in judgment. Even then, the Cardinals are the same team they were the past few years. Inherently flawed and in dire need of tweaks. Besides Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Tommy Edman, nobody else is hitting much. Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader struggled before getting injured. Yachty's dealing with an injury in his twilight. Paul DeJong has somehow felt the wrath of the baseball gods by being unable to hit anything. Jack Flaherty didn't start a game until mid-June, and then immediately checked back onto the IL. Their issues in health have led to some interesting decisions, like trying out Jordan Hicks as a starter. Things didn't go so well there for him. Recent results have concluded in a bit of an embarrassing slide back down to 500. And while they're still in position to do something, it has to be concerning. This was supposed to be the big year. Pujols and Molina are retiring. They can't go out with a whimper. They need a big push. It'll be far less bittersweet if that ends up happening. After careful consideration, the decisions made by Diamondbacks brass were correct. Last year's absolute disaster was indeed an aberration. Their wisdom has led the team back to where they rightfully belong. Incredible mediocrity. It's led by one of the worst hitting cores in the game. Old stalwarts have suddenly fallen off the map. Alec Thomas and Dalton Varsho are holding their own, but that's all you can really say about them. For the sanity of every baseball nerd out there, Ketel Marte has been wisely put back at second base. With a nice extension, he'll be here for a while. Hopefully. The starting rotation has been relatively solid, including a nice run by Mad Bum, but it's immediately undone by issues in the back end of the bullpen. Mark Melanson has been, how do I put this slightly, bad. The sad part is that they'll call this year progress and use it as an excuse to not fire anybody. This is how organizations like Arizona are run. Don't rock the boat until you're falling off a waterfall. This has been the perfect Colorado Rockies season. The year where they do just enough to keep having fans pay attention and come on down to the ballpark. Don't confuse this with them being in any way competitive. They're as irrelevant as ever. But they can always market an 8-3 start as the idea of competitiveness. Would a team that isn't trying sign Kris Bryant to that ridiculous contract? Of course not. Just ignore that he's been injured for most of the season and you're good. I can't believe it's not Kris Bryant and CJ Cron is hitting dingers left and right. The team is still completely terrible on the road, so you're guaranteed a good time at Coors Field. It's a great distraction until the Broncos open up training camp. It'd be damning if it wasn't so pathetic. The standard fare at Dodger Stadium. Outstanding team with talent oozing out of every pore. They've just started hitting their best stretch, going on an absolute tear, winning 16 of 20. For those times, they had streaks of winning 13 of 15 and 11 of 13. They're a damn good baseball team. Freeman, Lux, and Turner are leading an elite batting core. The headliner on the mound is Tony Gonsolin, of all people. He have 11-0 record and sub-2 ERA. Some of it's fielding related, but if he tapers off, they still have an army behind him. LA has one of the best records in baseball for a reason, and it's because of what they've built. But despite their brilliant record, there are cracks showing underneath. Mookie Betts and Walker Buehler have been stricken down by a litany of ailments this season. Trevor Bauer isn't going to be coming back anytime soon thanks to a punitive suspension by baseball for 2 years, not including what he's already served. Max Muncy has been ice cold all season. He seemingly caught whatever Cody Bellinger was infected with. Craig Kimbrell's had no luck whatsoever, as his FIP suggests he's still fucking lights out. Freddie Freeman's a damn good hitter, but he technically shouldn't be here. Someone's agent never told him about a counteroffer made by the Braves in the offseason, and it's made things really damn awkward. A cloud is hanging over this team regardless of their efforts. It'll be up to them to overcome it. All I can hope is that the team doesn't collapse so incredibly this time around. The fact that they are talented and winning a bunch of games has never been the issue. What has is consistency. And while the Padres are performing well so far, it doesn't mean that there aren't areas of deep concern. It's not in pitching, at least. Joe Musgrove has taken another step in having us all laugh at Pittsburgh. And with a rock-solid rotation and bullpen behind him, there is no shortage of glories to behold. To me, however, the red flag is in the batter's box. They need Fernando Tatis Jr. back and fast. They've been very, very underwhelming. Not necessarily in contact, but in the sheer lack of power. Very oddly so. They're near dead last in the league in slugging percentage. Near powerful foes like the Pirates, Nationals, and Royals. Besides Machado and Voit, there isn't anyone else offering consistent extra base potential. Great moments here and there, but nothing stable. They've been quite pedestrian over the past month, and the bats are a big reason why. You aren't going to make it past the Dodgers like this. No matter what they try, they just can't seem to do it. Eternal frustration. You figured that the window for the Giants was going to be short-lived. Nothing against what they're doing, but with a bunch of players in their early 30s, it was only a matter of time until Father Time started knocking on the door. With what they've been showing as of late, the fear going through my mind is that this is the beginning of the end. The arms can throw near perfection all they want. Carlos Rodon himself is pitching like a beast. The problem is when nearly every player that we're counting on to have an impact at the plate isn't, things tend to go south. Jock Peterson and Luis Gonzalez are the few players holding their weight. Everyone else is either injured, suffering massive regression, or sorely missing Buster Posey in the lineup. All this adds up to is a massive skid back to 500 by losing 14 of 18. The fortunate thing is that there's still time to right the ship. Maybe I'm being knee-jerk, but it's not if the Giants fall apart in my mind. It's when. Something has to give. Do they have more of that magic in them? They'll need it if they want to go anywhere. As you can see, the National League is quite something. You have teams riding incredible highs to chase October glory, and then you have those that are the absolute dreck. All hope was lost by the first pitch for some of these groups. Whether or not they acknowledge it or keep their heads in the sand, there are still playoff spots to fight for. I still see the Mets winning the NL East in a close race. I just think getting DeGrom back whenever he returns will be what pushes them over the edge. The NL Central is a coin flip. For me, it lands on Milwaukee. I just feel their upside is higher with their rotation in the postseason. The NL West is still property of the Dodgers. Sorry, San Diego. You at least get one of these shiny wildcard spots along with Atlanta and St. Louis. You'll get your chance to upend hated older brother in October ball. Or at least you better hope so. You don't want Philadelphia to get that shot over you, do you?
Get a different look in Verhagen. And it's popped up. Yachty with the catch.
And with that, he is the all-time leader in putouts in the history of Major League Baseball, just past Pudge Rodriguez. 14,865, the most in the history of Major League Baseball.